About a week ago, I had surgery to remove a tumor. Thankfully, when the biopsy results came back, it wasn't cancer, which is obviously the best possible outcome. But while the surgery itself went well, what happened afterwards is something I will probably never forget. Mostly because it was one of the most embarrassing experiences of my life. The surgery was on my abdomen, so after I woke up from anesthesia, every single movement hurt. Sitting up, standing, even shifting slightly in the hospital bed. It all felt like being stabbed in the stomach. On top of that, I was high as a kite from the anesthesia for hours. It was that groggy, floating kind of high, where you know things are happening around you, but you can't really process them properly, and you're just sort of in and out of awareness. Because the surgery was gynecological, the nurses put me in a diaper. They explained that sometimes people bleed a lot after this type of procedure, and it's easier to manage with a diaper than constantly changing pads and underwear. At the time, I didn't really care. I was too out of it and too focused on the pain to even process the humiliation factor of a grown adult being put in a diaper. I just let them do whatever they needed to do because I didn't have the energy to argue. They also told me that they wanted me to try to use the bathroom when I felt ready, and that I should call them to help me when I did. The bathroom was just across the room, but because I could barely walk, they needed to help me get there and monitor me. They also wanted to make sure that everything in my system was functioning properly after surgery. I nodded and went back to dozing, not really thinking about it too much. Hours passed like that. I just drifted in and out of sleep, occasionally whining about how much everything hurt. At some point, I started to feel hungry, and I figured since they kept asking me about using the bathroom, I might as well just get it over with. I drank a ton of water so I'd actually be able to go, and about half an hour later, I pressed the call button and told them I was ready. So 2 nurses came in to help me. They slowly walked me over to the bathroom, one on each side of me, because I was still moving like an old lady with a broken hip. When we got there, I told them they could leave the door open if they needed to watch because honestly, I didn't care at that point. My only priority was getting this over with as quickly as possible so they'd stop asking me about it. But then came the part that made this whole thing unforgettable. The nurses needed to help me get into position because I couldn't bend or move normally, and that included helping me take off the diaper. When they removed it, we all discovered at the same time that I had apparently had a bowel movement without realizing it. Let me just pause here and emphasize. I am 19 years old. 19. Not a baby, not a toddler, not even someone in their 60s with bladder issues. I am 19 and I pooped in a diaper and did not even notice. The realization hit me like a lightning bolt, and suddenly I was wide awake, anesthesia haze gone in an instant. My face got so hot, I thought I was going to spontaneously combust. I immediately stared at the ground because I couldn't even look at the nurses. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. One of them, bless her soul, tried to reassure me by saying, "Well, it's good that your digestion is working. Don't worry, it's a good thing." But let me tell you, it did not feel like a good thing at all. It felt like the most embarrassing thing that could possibly happen in front of strangers whose job it was to care for me. I sat down on the toilet and managed to go normally this time. It hurt, but not nearly as much as my pride did. I just kept replaying in my head how they had to peel off a diaper and discovered that I had literally pooped myself like a baby. There was no way to pretend it was anything else, no way to brush it off or cover it up. It was undeniable, and because I was still recovering, I couldn't just go commando or put on regular underwear after that. Nope, they helped me back into a fresh diaper. For the rest of the evening, I had to see those nurses multiple times for pain management, medication, or just general care. And each time I wanted to crawl under the bed and disappear. I knew they were professionals. I knew they had seen much worse, and I knew they didn't actually care. But I cared. A lot. The worst part is that I didn't end up bleeding all that much after surgery. Not nearly enough to justify the diaper. If I had bled through, at least I could have pretended that the diaper change was because of that. But no, there was no pretending. No excuses. The only reason my diaper needed changing was because I had pooped in it. The tumor had already stolen so much from me. It stole my comfort, my health, my sense of normalcy. And now, in its final act, before being removed from my body, it stole my dignity too. I had thought I was prepared for whatever recovery would throw at me, but I wasn't prepared for this. There's something about being 19 years old and realizing you can no longer say, "At least I've never pooped my pants as an adult," that really humbles a person. I spent the rest of my hospital stay walking a fine line between laughing at myself and dying of embarrassment. Part of me wanted to cry every time I remembered what happened, but another part realized how absurd the whole situation was. If someone else told me this story, I'd probably laugh until I cried. Living it, though, was pure torture. I don't know if this is the kind of story I'll ever be able to tell in person without wanting to vanish on the spot. But here it is, immortalized on the internet. If there's one thing I learned, it's that anesthesia, painkillers, and abdominal surgery are a dangerous combination. And sometimes your body just decides to do things without informing you first. I guess I'll chalk it up to a lesson in humility. So yeah, that's the story of how I had a tumor removed and ended up pooping in a diaper at 19 without realizing it. The surgery might have taken away the tumor, but the aftermath definitely took away my last shred of dignity.